What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over the X-Men, right? And we're getting our way up to Fatal Attractions. But now we're trying to cover some more X Factor as we dive into Fatal Attractions very soon on my channel. But before we're able to do that, we still got to cover at least one more story that leads into Fatal Attractions when it comes to X Factor. A two-part story arc that takes place in X Factor issue 90 and issue number 91. Now, with this two-part story arc, it's all about the idea of a major secret being hidden right now by Genosha. Now, if you have been following my coverage over the X-Men, you would know that in the early days of Genosha, we had learned that it was a country that was trying to paint this picture of a perfect nation, that everybody is happy, everyone is doing good, everything is perfect there. But in reality, it was not like that for mutants. If you were a mutant, then most likely you were a slave. Not most likely, you were a slave. And you were being used as a way to help build up the nation, to make it a stronger place in different kinds of ways. Now, thanks to an event called the Extinction Agenda, you had the X-Men, X Factor, and the New Mutants being able to actually begin the process of changing the nation around. Now, when it came to X Factor, the new X Factor team, they ran into a group of characters known as the Patriots or X-Patriots. Now, when it came to the X-Patriots, they left Genosha believing that they needed to find a new home. They had no idea Genosha had begun the process of actually changing. And so for X Factor, the new one that is actually a government-led team by Havoc, he said, listen, let us take you back over to Genosha, and you will learn that it's actually a better place now for all mutants. And so today's story arc kind of picks up where that last story arc left off at, but it's our heroes kind of discovering that there is a major secret going on when it comes to Genosha. But as we dive into issue number 90 for X Factor, the opening pages of that book reminds us about what's going on with Wolfsbane at this moment in time in Marvel Comics. You see, for Wolfsbane, we had learned that when she was a slave on Genosha, they had actually modified her in a way to kind of put in her mind that she's in love with Havoc, to kind of pair up the two characters. Now, this makes a lot of sense. And the reason why, because when it came to Peter David, at the very beginning of his run on X Factor, when he had introduced the new team, she was madly in love with Havoc. And we had no idea why. Now, there were other guys that she was attracted to, but the main guy was actually Havoc. And no one knew why. Because when she was a slave, and so was he, they tried to make sure these two slaves would actually pair up with one another. And so she kind of realized that her mind was being forced to fall in love with Havoc. It wasn't natural. And so she's very upset with that and kind of took her anger out on Polaris, the current girlfriend for Havoc. Now, for Polaris, she does understand what Wolfsbane is going through, but she needs Wolfsbane to calm down. Now, when it comes to this book, it also reminded me that at this time, Polaris had no idea that she was the daughter of Magneto, because she tells us that there was a moment in time where Mesmero was trying to play mind games on her by making her believe that she was actually the daughter of Magneto. And so at this time, she still believes that she is not the daughter of Magneto. Either way, though, you do have Polaris say, listen, I know what it's like to have your mind messed with. You forgot that there was a good time where malice had taken over my body and sent my mind away deep in my body, and I was no longer able to be in control of my own body. She used my body for whatever she wanted to do in the world. But then later on, I was able to regain control of myself and be free once again. So you have the two ladies being able to bond with one another and actually calm down. Now, like I said at the very beginning of this video, for X Factor, they came back over to Genosha believing that it's now a better nation, but also they wanted to prove to the expatriates that it is actually a better nation now. But the problem is for Havoc, he found some devices that he realized that are being used as a way to monitor the mutants of Genosha, because most of the mutants of Genosha, they were slaves. And so they have to go through a process to change their minds and kind of fix them so that they're no longer slaves of Genosha. It's a whole actual process. But for Havoc, finding these devices, he believes that Genosha's new government is trying to monitor the mutants to find a way to actually control their minds, to find a new way to make them slaves. And so you have Havoc just going out of his way to blow up all these different devices. Now, for Havoc and Strong Guy, they are actually confronted by another mutant known as Piecemeal, who is actually working for the government of Genosha. And really, it's not him being a slave. He actually took the job with his own free will. Now, I'm not going to sit down and try to explain the powers of Piecemeal because right now he's not really that important. Just know that after a couple more pages, you actually have Havoc and Strong Guy being able to defeat him. But once they do defeat him, you then have the president of Genosha tell Havoc, like, listen, I think it's time you guys know the actual truth. Now, before we are able to learn what is going on with Genosha, we have to jump over to Quicksilver. Now, in our last video, when it came to Quicksilver, he took a break from the team so that he would be able to repair his relationship with Crystal of the Inhumans. And the reason why, because, well, they were not technically divorced, but they were separated. And he was trying to repair the relationship so that them and their daughter could be a family again. And so at first, everything was going great until he ran into some kind of reporter at a nearby store at the cabin they were staying at. Now, this reporter had told Quicksilver that Crystal was with another guy. And so for Quicksilver, he hates the whole idea that while they were broken up, that she met another guy. Now, he does ask Crystal, and she tells him no, that did not happen. But he does not believe her. And so it's him calling Val Cooper right now to tell her, like, hey, listen, I might need more time away from the team because right now there are a lot of things going on with me and also Crystal. Now, while he's on the phone or on this call with Val Cooper, you have Jamie Madrox walk into the room. And he wants to tell Quicksilver, like, hey, we need your help here on Genosha. But Val Cooper, she ends the call before he's actually able to tell Quicksilver what's happening on Genosha. But now we have to jump over to our heroes, all the X Factor, because they're now going to learn what is exactly happening on Genosha at this moment. What is the big secret? And so you have our heroes be taken over to a nearby hospital. And the reason why, because this hospital was actually shut down recently. But the reason why is because they're currently using that hospital as a research center, because we now see that there are a group of mutants that are dying from some kind of disease. Now, if you saw our other X-Men videos by this point in our coverage leading into Fatal Attractions, you would know that this would be the legacy virus. The legacy virus is out there slowly killing off mutants left and right. And so right now for X Factor, it's them finding out about this actual virus, because now they're realizing that there are now mutants dying from some disease. Now, for our heroes, they have no idea that this virus is worldwide. They only believe the virus is right now only on Genosha. Now, you do have our heroes be confronted by Moira Taggart. Now, for Moira Taggart being here, it does take place before all the other videos when it comes to Ileana, the younger sister of Colossus, dying from the legacy virus. And so right now, it's her trying to make her way over to the X-Men to begin doing her research alongside with Charles Xavier to hopefully find a cure for the legacy virus. But as we all know, right now, there is no actual cure. That mutants are dying at a very fast rate. Now, this leads into a conversation between Mormon Taggart and also Wolfsbane. You see, for Wolfsbane, she's actually the adoptive daughter to Mormon Taggart. And so you have Wolfsbane kind of begging Mormon Taggart to stay on Genosha because she's leaving to go see Charles Xavier to hopefully find a cure for this virus. But for Wolfsbane, she needs her mother right now because she had just learned about the whole idea that her mind was programmed to be in love with Havoc. It's not her own free will to fall in love with Havoc. She wants her mom there to be a scientist, but to also be a mother. But for Mormon Taggart, she's kind of like, listen, I can't do this right now. I have to leave. And the reason why? Because what's happening across the world to all mutants. And so she just walks away. Now, the ending of this chapter is really more of X Factor finding out that one of the mutants that were being treated for the legacy virus had decided to escape the actual facility to die somewhere else away from the actual facility. Now, once you had a scientist and security team find out that mutant had escaped, they're trying to actually kill off that mutant just in case before it's able to spread the virus. They have no idea how the virus is actually being spread. Now, for X Factor, that's not okay at all. They're kind of like, listen, you are not going to kill that mutant at all. We're going to find the mutant and bring him back here without you guys trying to terminate him. And so now it's X Factor rushing to hopefully save that mutant before Genosha's government team actually kills it off. And so as we dive into X Factor issue number 91, we kind of pick up with our heroes is trying their best to find that mutant that had escaped. Now, for our heroes, they're all wearing some protective suit as a way to protect them just in case they are able to get the virus from the young mutant that had escaped. Now, they're also fighting against the magistrate. Now, the magistrate is the government, army, or police force for Genosha. Either way, our heroes are fighting against them. Really, right now, it's just Havoc and also Strong Guy. Now, you have Polaris tell us that she found a map in her system or her suit system that kind of shows where everybody is at. And she's telling them right now, like, hey, guys, listen, I see the mutant. And right now, none of us are really nearby. But hey, let's all try our best to make our way over to him. And so you have Polaris being able to kind of give directions to each hero to hopefully find the young mutant. Now, for our team, they're kind of worried for Wolfsbane. Now, really, when it comes to our heroes, they're just worried that Wolfsbane might just go berserk and go crazy and try to kill off the magistrate members left and right. Because right now, how angry she is finding out that her mind was programmed to fall in love with Havoc. But when they do arrive to find Wolfsbane, and they do see her being a tad bit crazy and actually not killing off, but attacking different members of the magistrate, you have our hero try to calm her down, and she's all like, listen, I'm not that far gone where I'm going to actually kill them off. I'm not going berserk. Matter of fact, I'm pretty calm. And please stop talking to me in a way where it's kind of like I'm some wild animal. But either way, you do have our heroes continue on to hopefully find the young mutant that had escaped earlier. Now, I want to jump back over to Val Cooper because you have Val being able to actually find Quicksilver, which means that she left Genosha in the middle of the whole idea of the entire team finding out that, hey, there's a virus going around right now on Genosha killing off mutants. But she does fly back over to where Quicksilver is at. Now, when she finds him, he's at a bar because he's very upset about the idea that he was not able to fix his relationship with Crystal. But either way, we also have to remember that this is not Val Cooper. And what I mean by that statement is that for Val Cooper, she was actually taken over or something happened to her right after you had the entire team get some therapy sessions. And so we still have no idea what exactly had happened to her. We have to believe right now that this is a Val Cooper who has some evil plans up her sleeve sooner or later that could affect all the members of X Factor. Now, I want to jump over to Jamie Madrox, and the reason why, because he was able to find the young mutant that had escaped. The thing is, the young mutant had collapsed, and the reason why, because the young mutant is going into cardiac arrest. Now, here's the problem though, because for X Factor, they're very worried about the idea and the possibility they might actually get the virus. But at the same time, they got to this young man's life. And so for Jimmy Madrox, he realized that in the possibility to save the young man's life, he might have do CPR, but to also have somebody else pump the heart of the young mutant. And so he needs, well, a clone of himself. But the problem is, if he does reabsorb that clone, there is a possibility he might actually get the virus. And that is a really huge thing here. But before we are able to actually see that, we have to jump over to Havoc and also Wolfsbane, because you have Havoc wanting to have a conversation with Wolfsbane because he also learned what happened to her. The whole idea that her mind was programmed to fall in love with him. And he wants to have that conversation with her, but she says no. And the reason why, because the way he's phrasing how he wants to have this conversation. It's his wants, it's his needs. It's not really him expressing that he's actually concerned for her. What does she want? What does she need? And so right now, she's kind of like, no, we got a job to do. So let's go right now and hopefully save the life of that young mutant. Now, to go ahead and end today's video, we actually jump back over to Jamie Madrox, where you have Jamie right now trying to wonder how in the world is he going to be able to save the life of this young mutant who's right now going into cardiac arrest. Now, for Jamie, he knows that he has no choice here. He has to make a clone of himself so they're able to work together to save the life of this young mutant. But he's afraid of the idea of his clone getting the virus, because if his clone does and he reabsorbs his clone, then Jamie himself would also get the virus. And so it's him just freaking out in the possibility that he might get the virus. But at the same time, he wants to be a hero. And so he does make a clone of himself. And you do have him and the clone being able to save the life of the young mutant. And once they do, they take the young mutant back over to the hospital. Now, the problem is that he had to reabsorb that clone. And so now we're kind of left to wonder in the possibility, does Jamie now have the legacy virus? And if he does, will he die or will he survive? But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. Now, the next video for X Factor is going to be Fatal Attractions. And matter of fact, it should be our next video. We'll see here in a little bit. But either way, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.